DC Comics. Yeah, that DC Comics. And Dungeons and Dragons? What am I talking about? Stay tuned. So this one's kind of a little bit out of left field. I did not anticipate this coming out, but check this out. So on N World, there was an article published yesterday. I guess at this point, I'm a little behind the times on this one. But Chris Hoffer at comicbook.com reports that DC Comics will be publishing a Dungeons and Dragons compatible source book set in the world of its new fantasy series, The Last God. We got a little information here. The Last God, Tales from the Book of Ages, is a 40-page source book. It's only 40 pages, though, so when they say published, I don't know if that means it's going to be like a DM's Guild thing or not, but let's keep reading. 40-page source book that will be published in April and will detail the rich history of the people, locations, schools of magic, and creatures found throughout Cain Enwin, I guess, the setting of The Last God. Written by Philip Kennedy Johnson, with arts by series artist Riccardo Federici and cover artist Kai Carpenter. The book will also contain Dungeons & Dragons 5e compatible playable races, subclasses, magic items, monsters, and more, designed by Nerd Poker DM Dan Tefler and maps by cartographer Jared Blando. Jared Blando is a name that I know. Dan Tefler, I've never really listened to Nerd Poker, so that may or may not interest you further. Read more at comicbook.com and DC Comics. So here's kind of some cover art. Can we open this image here? Of The Last God here. Here's the source book DC Black Label, it says here. And then here's another one of the cover arts of the comic, which is very cool. I get a very D&D, Red Sonja, Conan-y vibe from this. You've got, your barbarian-ish, here's your archer, maybe a fighter, a rogue, there's like a wizard in the background here, maybe this is a monk. But yeah, so I'll link this N-World article here, as well as this comicbook.com article in case you want to check it out for yourself. It says it will be released on April 29th with a cover price. The book, is this the source book? Yeah, 40-page source book. Okay, so Last God, Tales from the Book of Ages will be released on April 29th with a cover price of $4.99. So if I'm understanding this correctly, this is basically, here, there's some more. Last God is a dark fantasy series published as part of DC's Black Label line and is set in a world where the Last God's strange, otherworldly forces are ripping through that area. The series follows a small group of uneasy allies, several of whom were part of the last expedition sent to put down the Last God 30 years prior to the beginning of the series. Dark and unforgiving, The Last God is a great new fantasy series and evokes shades of Joe Abercrombie and Robert E. Howard. So, if I'm reading this correctly, this is... okay, a compatible... I was thinking it was like you were getting the comic and then also other stuff, but this just looks like it's... if I'm reading this correctly, Last God, Tales from the Book of Ages is a 40-page source. Yeah, it looks like it's $4.99. So, obviously, this is not going to be, from what I can tell, an official, like, published through WotC thing, kind of like the Acquisitions Incorporated book or the new Critical Role book. This is going to just be something DC is going to release on their own, but it is 5e compatible. Makes sense, right? Obviously, we just saw the announcement of the Critical Role book. So, and we all know Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition and Dungeons and Dragons and role-playing games in general are in a huge boom right now. So, if you can take a little piece of that pie, honestly, there'd be a lot of other companies like Marvel. I know Marvel's and like DC have had their own superhero RPGs and their own almost sort of proprietary RPGs. But if they can release source books in their fantasy settings in a Dungeons & Dragons world like they're going to be doing here with this Last God book, it just will help capitalize on top of the popularity, and I think it kind of makes sense. Also, it's only 40 pages, so it's not going to be a huge slog to read, and it's only going to be $5. So I would pick this up in April for sure, and be doing a review and covering the playable races. The only thing I'll say is when you see this kind of stuff, you never really know what you're going to get, right? They're going to give you playable races and subclasses and magic items and stuff like that. it has the potential for things to either be, and again, I don't really, and I guess I should preface this, I'm not a huge DC Comics guy, so I don't know a lot about DC Comics. I've never read The Last God. Maybe I'll pick it up or try to read it now that this is coming out. If you are a fan of that series or know of it, I'd love to hear your thoughts about this idea in the comments below. As does this make sense? If you know the world, does it fit a Dungeons and Dragons style setting? Will that be easily portable? I mean, it looks like it from the cover art that I've seen. It looks very D&D, so that would be cool. You just never know what you're going to get as far as power level of things like that. But, you know, I'm always excited for new options, even if you don't end up using them as they are. But, you know, maybe you snag a monster, a magic item, or use some of the stuff that you read there to incorporate into other things in your game. So I'm curious. For $4.99, I'll pick it up. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Again, I'll leave links to the N-World document and the comicbook.com, to 2 articles if you want to go check them out for yourself. And if you like this video and want to see more news coverage, that kind of stuff from me in the future, be sure to subscribe to the channel and ring the bell so you guys can stay up to date on all these updates. I've been trying to cover as much D&D news as I have. I used to do this way back in the day, like 2-3 years ago. I used to do a weekly video where I covered every bit of D&D news I could find every single week for about 2 years running. And that just got to be a lot, because if I missed a week, then I was doing 2 weeks worth of news and it took forever. So now I'm kind of just doing the news as, you know, piecemeal as I find it. So if you guys come across any other D&D news or articles or things that you would like me to cover, feel free to hit me up on some social media and point me to the direction of what you want to talk about, and I'd gladly do so. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time.